Okay, so hi everybody. We are playing Strike. This is the first of two sessions of this first run through the D&D 4E 10th anniversary series that I'm running. And we're going to be playing the 4E module, the Slaying Stone. So this is a 4E module that was written for first level players, first level characters. And I've adapted it to work with Strike. Strike is a game that takes some inspiration from 4E, some inspiration from the Burning Wheel, and a little bit of inspiration from Fate, I think. So it's very much a game of its time, having just sort of followed up on 4E. I think the author said that 4E was the first tabletop RPG that he ever got into. So that's kind of the reason why this game came about. And accordingly, there's sort of Burning Wheel style story game play, which is the core of the game. And then an optional module for tactical combat, which is pretty much a simplified version of 4E combat. So we're going to try both of these out today, and we'll see how it goes. So to start out with, if you look over at Roll20, there is a player reference handout that you might find handy. Has some rules on it. So the skill tests that you make in this game, you can either roll with a skill when you're unskilled or skilled. So unlike in Burning Wheel, where you roll an unskilled test and you need to go through some kind of complicated procedure about determining what your root stat is and stuff, you don't need to do that in this game. You're either unskilled in something or skilled in something, and in either case you're just rolling 1d6. However, the payoff varies whether you're skilled or unskilled, so that's why there is a green skilled box that you can see and then a yellow unskilled box. And the notable thing here is if you roll a 6 and you are unskilled, you can choose to either get a bonus from succeeding, which is something that you, the player, can choose, something positive that happens because you succeeded, especially well. It's kind of like in Fate, if you succeed with style. You can do that on either skilled or unskilled. However, if you get a 6 and you are unskilled, you can choose to learn the skill that you are rolling for, and then you can make skill tests with that afterwards. Also, unlike Burning Wheel, this game doesn't have a huge skill list associated with it. It's something you just make up. So it's more similar to Fate in that sense, where you kind of make up your traits as you go along instead of selecting from a huge list. So that's a little bit lower on the overhead in some ways as well. As far as your skills go in this game, I've tried to start you off with some skills that are based on the skills in 4E. And also have grabbed some skills from Burning Wheel. So after that, we're pretty much free to come up with whatever we want, right? But this is a starting place. And another thing you'll see on your handout is the wealth system. It's similar to resource dice in Burning Wheel. However, we're probably going to get into that if it becomes an issue. I don't know if it will. Another thing to note is this game has advantage and disadvantage. So basically, if you have advantage, you roll 2d6 and take the higher result. If you have disadvantage, you roll 2d6 and take the lower result. And there's opposed rolls. There's kind of a payoff table for those, but those should be pretty familiar. Linked rolls, again, similar to Burning Wheel. Basically, you can create advantage for yourself by doing a link test to set up something you want to do. And conditions. So there's various conditions you can get. They each have specific effects. So this is maybe something a little bit more similar to like Blades of the Dark. We'll go through those as we play, I think. There's a recovery system for those. And finally, there are action points, something worth noting. So action points allow you to do things both out of tactical combat and in tactical combat. So they kind of tie the game together in a way that hopefully will make it feel a little bit more organic instead of just playing two separate games. So if you basically take a compel like you would in Fate, you can earn a action point. And this is choosing to take a twist on a roll. And a twist is basically like a 7 to 9 result in PBTA games. You get what you want, but at a cost. So you can roll a twist, but you can also just choose to take one in order to get yourself an action point. And then you can spend those to get advantage or to do fun stuff in the tactical combat section. I think that pretty much covers the broad set of rules. Yeah, notably, you start each session with one action point, and you can get one for something cool you do, and you can also get one when you choose to take a compel. All right, and finally, there's rules for helping, but we'll get into those. So, to actually play the game, I have made up some pre-gen characters for you to check out. You can see these under the PC section on Roll20, hopefully. There's 6 characters here for you to choose from. We've got a Dragonborn Warlord. We've got a human barbarian, more or less. We've got a half-orc ranger, a dwarven wizard, a kobold thief, and a human swordswoman. It's basically a slayer if you're familiar with 4E. So, have a look at those. They each have a little bit of backstory written for them, which you can find under their history and appearance section on their character sheet. If you go to the overview or all tabs on the character sheet, it will show you that. So yeah, just have a look through the pre-gens and see if any of them interest you. One thing to note is that they are all statted out for tactical combat, so we'll probably get into that once you choose them, but they are going to behave more or less like you would expect their respective classes to behave in a D&D game.
I don't know about anybody else, but I like Arjan, the Dragonborn Warlord, and Posley, the Kobold Rogue. So,
okay, cool.
I could go for either of those if anyone has a preference for the other one. just based on silliness and the illustration. I was thinking of the kobold.
I knew the kobold
but
was going to be popular.
but
He's
I
so
hadn't actually
adorable.
like really examined anything to make that decision.
I'm pretty keen on Huru, the half orc archer. I'm on an archer kick at the moment.
Yeah, so I will say this. Okay, so who here has played 4E before?
I have a few
Show of
times.
hands. Okay. So, as you might expect, the Warlord is probably the most complex class to play in this game. Just because you have a lot of options to use. So if you don't have any experience, or if you have little experience with 4E, then you might not want to choose the Warlord. But otherwise, you're kind of free to choose whatever you like.
I'm leaning toward Gorstog, the barbarian.
Cool.
If that's all right with everyone.
So you got Barbarian, Ranger, Thief, and Warlord. Are we looking at here?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Magic is for nerds.
Yeah. Who needs magic? Yeah. So if you look at your character sheet, you will see that there is an overview tab, a combat tab, and alt tab. You can see, basically this is just here to switch in and out of the combat stuff because there is a lot of combat stuff. One thing you'll note about the skills in the combat section is that there is an E field at the end of the list. And that's where your skill description is going to go. Not necessarily all of these things count as effects, as the game would talk about them, but we'll figure it out as we go. One thing I would suggest is just kind of like copy pasting the descriptions into some other text editor, because unfortunately these character sheets aren't amazing. I considered using Google Sheets to do the characters, but just because Roll20 is doing the tactical combat for us, I figured I'd stick them in here, and we'll give it a shot.
Looks like Roll20 stopped allowing me to actually open the Gorstag character sheet for some reason. I
Okay.
don't see it popping up anymore. So if someone could copy paste that somewhere for me, that would, like in an email or something, that would be helpful.
Ooh. So you can't look at anything in the character sheet, is what you're saying?
I can look at everyone's character sheets, but that one, I'm not really
But
sure. But
that one.
Did you pop it out into another window? Because
I think I did, but I don't have that window open anymore.
Sometimes those
Okay.
windows get lost. Yeah.
So maybe just quit the Roll20 window and then rejoin and see if it
That's a
fixes
good
it.
idea. Let me give that a try. Sorry to be the difficult one here.
No, that's fine. So I should also ask, how many of you have played Burning Wheel before?
I have not.
I have not.
Okay. That's fine. I mean,
Well-
it's definitely not a requirement for this game. It's just useful background knowledge if you have it.
I mean,
I was able to
I've
reopen it, so we're all good.
Okay.
about as much as I've played 4E, but I did play a decent amount of Burning Empires.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I've never played that, but I think the systems are pretty similar. All right then. So I think we can actually start getting into play. If you have a chance, you can look at your overview tab and see your skills. So, for example, Arjon has the skills Command, History, Appropriate Weapons, Tactics, Dragon-Wise, and Calculating. So if you ever want to roll with a skill, you just kind of pick it out, and we'll go with it. And one thing to note is that more specific skills beat more general skills. So the kind of 4E skills that you see here, like command and history, are pretty general. But if you have something like, like the history of this one country, then that's like a better thing to use than the more general thing. And you'll see your complication. That's the thing you can use to draw on in order to get compels, to get action points. And your tricks, a trick is something you can always do. You can always succeed at. So it's a nice thing to have. They're pretty specific, but they're nice to have. Some of them are combat related, some of them are not combat related. Yeah. And what you'll see under the items, relationships, and reputations is usually the item that you get to start with. And I tried to give each of your characters a kind of a hook into this setting. If you want to change something about your backstory or make some other little adjustments to your character, that's totally fine.
Are we assuming that we know each other in some way, or
yeah? Like I think the premise here is this this game is kind of set in the like Nentir Vale mini setting that most of the 4E modules use, and you're heading from the east into the Nentir Vale. You're headed towards Hammerfast, which you can see right there on the map. And I think you've all kind of been brought together because you're all headed towards this destination. So I don't think you've probably been together for a very long time, but I mean, maybe some of you have, but in general, you've just kind of been brought together by having a common destination that you're headed for. And one thing I will say is, like, once you kind of have your basics of your character sorted, I was thinking about maybe doing some bonds for our characters just to kind of set up a relationship. It's not a part of Strike normally, but, like, I figured, hey, why not?
So can we run down who's playing who again? I'm sorry, my daughter needs me. I'll be right back.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, so why don't we start with Arthur?
All right, I am playing Gorstag Kulanov. He's a human barbarian. Basically, his clan was decimated by hobgoblins. A member of his clan named Bear comes to him in dreams and has told him that he needs to destroy the Sundered Gate. So that's sort of what my goal is, my personality-wise. So he's your pretty standard issue D&D barbarian, big, burly, fits of rage. And he is pretty much all physical and battly.
Yeah, he's kind of similar to like the 4E spirit totem barbarians. So like his totem is bear, and he kind of gets a few abilities that are related to that. So if you want to play up like the sort of like druid-ish angle of the barbarian with this character, then that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good call. He's got some druid-like shape-shifting abilities and kind of has some aspects of the bear.
Cool. All right, so let's move on to JM.
Oh, that's me.
Yep. Sorry.
Sorry. I believe I was playing Arjan, right? Or was somebody else using that one?
Yeah, I think
Okay, yeah.
you get the pick.
So, Arjan is the Dragonborn warlord who is headed to find. He is a soldier in the army of Brizitis, who is a brass dragon, and he is going to find the daughter, who has left and owes him a debt. So I am going to get her back and make sure that she pays her debt.
Just trying to collect a debt for a dragon. It's no big deal. No troubles.
I'm sure that'll be easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and Arjan is a warlord, so you're kind of like a savvy tactical commander brought up in the army of this brass dragon, who's kind of the master of the deserts to the east, and just basically has sort of protection racket to get gold and treasure from travelers passing by.
So just follow what I say and everyone will survive.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah. All right, Sid, go ahead.
Follow what I say and everyone will survive is my favorite core character concept. So I'm playing Huru Tolin, the half-orc ranger. Orphaned at a young age, as all good RPG characters should be. Raised in the woods by rangers, and but she's now on a personal quest to find her daddy, who she believes is Kyle. You might have to help me out with the pronunciation for this. Herxag?
I believe that is correct.
Herxag Dragon Skull.
Exactly. Herxag's Dragon Skull. Yep.
Yeah, he's the leader of an orcish mercenary company called the Severed Eyes, and I don't know if when I meet him, I will throw my arms around him or plunge an arrow into his neck. But I'm sure, given orcish customs, it'll be one of those two.
Yeah, well, we're playing this game which is related to Burning Wheel, but you don't have a hatred stat, so don't worry, it'll be fine.
Is my relationship with him a hateful rivals, or
I think that's up to you to decide. You may run into the Severed Eyes.
Reading.
Just saying, you may run into the Severed Eyes in this adventure, so you can figure it out.
Beautiful.
All right, so we'll just wait for Tejas. Hopefully his daughter is not also eating tape.
Questions. The Sundered Gate, is that a known thing, or is that
yes. The Sundered Gate is a hobgoblin army. And they would be fairly well known as like a force in this area. So the idea there was that they destroyed Gorstag's tribe.
How dare they?
Not good. Bear is
Typical
angry.
hobgoblin behavior.
Yeah, typical hobgoblins. Oh man.
it's went to a real racially charged place?
Yeah, and I mean the base module as is, really has all of the races in the game performing pretty much as you would expect them to. But we're free to subvert that whenever we feel like it. I'm not gonna stick to the module slavishly. Um, have any of you played this module before?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I did not get to play as much 4E as I wanted to.
Yeah, yeah, personally, I actually haven't played 4E. I just kind of never got into it because I saw how many source books and other books were required to play the game, and kind of just threw my hands up in the air and shrugged. But I did get kind of interested in it just because of this 10th anniversary coming up and all the discussion about it that's been happening as people kind of look back on the game. So I kind of sourced some recommendations for what a interesting module would be, and this was the one that people seemed to like as an early level module that is a little bit more freeform than what most 4E modules were. It's a point crawl, so you will be able to kind of freely travel around this space.
Yeah, I ran a lot of 4E, but I only ran the first 4E module, like printed module, and it was not great. So
yeah, that's like the keep on the Shadowfell, like the keep on the Borderlands thing. Yeah, I heard that was kind of middling at best. This was I think this module was kind of printed as like a make good for that one. And is like, well, we should kind of give them a better first level module to work with. And I heard that the one in the red box that they did was pretty good as well. Yeah, but I think especially that first Keep on the Shadowfell, like the game just wasn't ready when it launched. It was maybe a rush job or something. You can actually see on the map here. It's over here. This place which we shall not visit. Thankfully. Okay, Tages, you're back.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody.
No worries. Okay, so can you just give a little intro of your character?
Sure. So, Posley has been seeking her fortune. At least that's the way she hears the big people say it. She's not sure that it kind of means the same thing, but, she says it. For a while, she's had to leave her home, because she says too much strife, but you guys kind of get the feeling that some hero or another had decided that her home was ideal level 1 kobold clearing territory. So she is now out to find her place in the world currently. She finds that place with you, but just the way her eyes sort of glints when she sees a bit of something shiny, you kind of have a feeling that there's something more that she wants in terms of just having gold, not just to get a little bit rich, but she's got an end goal in mind.
Yes, she certainly does. So, cool. All right, so this is our party, and I think we're about ready to get started here. So, the setup for this adventure is that you are all traveling from the east to the dwarven town of Hammerfast. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of bad weather recently, and the main road to Hammerfast has been washed out, and you've had to make a detour through a road which is less used these days, we'll say. It used to be the main road. It used to pass through a somewhat prosperous town that was known as Curious Dawn. However, that town was overrun by a goblin horde and is now known by the name of Gorisbad. So there is some apprehension you have as you start to near the town. It's a very dark and stormy night, exactly as you might expect in a story like this, and the road has just turned to this disgusting muck. It's muddy, and it's dark, and it's raining, and it's cold. It's just not a good time. You're making your way to Hammerfast. You have dreams in your head, maybe of a nice warm bed at an inn somewhere there. And just as you're thinking of that, you're passing through this wooded area, continuing along the road. It's all overgrown here and there, but in a kind of unlikely turn of events, you see off in the distance that there is a light. Looks like torchlight, visible. Kind of pierces the darkness in front of you. And if you, on closer inspection, you take a moment, you have a look at it, and it seems to be coming from a tower, which is located across a small stream that is bridged by a wooden bridge. And I think you all maybe have a desire to head towards this light, this possible safety from the elements, with all due caution, of course. But as you attempt to do so, you hear a growling from the woods around you, and you find yourself beset by a pack of hungry wolves. So we're going to start out here with a pretty short tactical combat. And just to give you a sense of what the system is like, I'm not going to run this like 4E where every combat is a tactical combat. We're just going to do it for the interesting bits. But I figure I'd give you a chance to kind of get a feel for the systems here. So let's go ahead and move on to here. And gonna move these to cool. All right, so your characters are going to start over here on this side of the stream. And if you want to just drag them over into the map, your token should be placed on the map where you drag it. So, just for example...
I don't think that we as players have access to tokens.
Are you sure? Because they're showing up on the map.
I don't see my token.
Oh, cool. You just drag your character.
Yeah, you just drag your character onto the map.
Your
yeah.
face.
Oh, interesting.
So you're just going to put them somewhere over here.
Huh. So you grab like your chat avatar?
Just your like the heading for your character sheet and drag it over into the map.
Got it. Okay.
There you are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So Pasley, you can place yourself somewhere there. Decide kind of like what the who's in front, that kind of thing, marching order.
I think I'd probably take the lead, being rash and these being animals.
Yeah, I believe it. Bear, I mean, at least they're not bears, right?
Right.
Well, maybe if there are bears, we would just avoid this whole combat. We could have a nice conversation.
That's right. Good to see you, Bear.
Hello,
All right, so of course, this being a tactical combat game, we're going to have an initiative order. So here's the turn order thing. And we'll figure it out. So I believe the way this works is that we all roll a d6.
Do we do that in the chat?
Yeah, that would be best. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to take a look here at the PDF because I think that will have the exact rules for how initiative works.
The rogue is quicker than the rest of us. Interesting.
Purely by happenstance, charging to the rear.
Expeditious retreat.
Yeah, so highest is the first. And in the case of a tie, monsters go before players, and tied players go in whichever order they wish. Okay, so let's do this. So, highest we got here is Tejas playing our kobold. So we go add turn. And next we've got...
Now you did that by right-clicking the token?
Yeah, right-clicking the token, go add turn, yeah.
Okay.
And next we've got, looks like our warlord. And then we've got our ranger, and finally we've got our barbarian. Okay, so I got to roll for my wolf friends here. Okay, so this wolf got a 2, which means they're going before. Here we go. And next wolf. Ooh, a 6. And I might just group these weaker wolves up together. I'm just gonna get rid of this token here. Don't need that. Yeah, I might just group these wolves together as a thing in order to save on time. So we'll make the gray wolves go here, and then we'll make the I believe they are called the ravenous wolves go first. Cool. All right. So that's our turn order. Got it figured out. We pretty much just go through it sequentially, and then after we're finished, we go back up to the top of the stack, as you would expect. So, you see that these wolves look really I mean, I think it's kind of a commonplace in D&D that wolves are going to attack you at first sight. You know, it's like Witcher 3, right? You're just like walking across the landscape, you're walking through this bucolic countryside, and then a pack of wolves attacks you for no reason whatsoever. However, these are not like those wolves. These are not the wolves that just have hate burning in their hearts for all demi-humans and humans. These are actually very hungry wolves, and they look like they've been probably beaten and abused in some way. Maybe they've been captive. And these ravenous wolves come out of the tree line and start to attack. So, in this game, there's no feet in the movement system. You just measure in squares. All the characters, unless otherwise noted, have a movement of 6, a speed of 6. So I can move... and if you want to check how far something is, there's the ruler tool on the left-hand side of Roll20, which you can use to measure out the distance between things. So let's see here. What is my first wolf going to do? I think... yeah, I'm going to move up and attack our archer. So...
Kyle, I thought we were friends.
Hey, look, wolves don't care. So, don't have an opportunity, but, ooh. Okay, yeah. So, I'm going to try to use my multi-attack ability.
Well, it was fun playing this game with you guys. I'm out.
So let's see how this wolf does. Okay, rolled a 5. And I believe that means I don't get the effect that I was looking for. So on a 5, you get... Oh, I get an effect. Okay, so here's what happens. I deal 1 damage, because this is a burst attack. I deal 1 damage to Gorstog, 1 damage to Huru, and 1 damage to Arjan. And all of you are slowed until next turn. So I'm just adding the little snail icon to each of your characters, so you can keep track of that. And what the slowed effect does is, just to read it out. A slowed creature has its speed reduced to 2 and cannot spend a move action to shift. So you can only move 2 spaces and you can't shift, which is a thing you can do in battle to avoid getting attacks of opportunity on you. So now this other wolf is going to come up here. Let's see. Maybe we'll move and attack Gorstog.
I'm going to take that personally.
Hey, it's the wolves, it's not me.
That's right.
I think they're just gonna make... Yeah... Well, maybe... Yeah, actually, you know what I'm gonna do is not move there. I'm gonna move here, and I'm gonna use my come here attack. So
Mortal Kombat style.
It is absolutely Mortal Kombat style, yes. Okay, so you're gonna take 2 damage, Gorstog, so I think you're down to 7 HP. Everybody starts at 10 HP. And you are moving adjacent to me. Okay. Yeah, I think that's that. And then I'm just going to move my other wolf as far as they can move, which is... Oh! I made a mistake. I made a terrible mistake. It's muddy terrain, so this isn't going to be an issue for all the movements I made. Actually, it's fine. But everybody's moving at half movement because it's just the ground is just disgusting. So you can move up to 3 spaces every turn in this battlefield.
And then for slowed, does that mean we're moving 1 space?
1 space, yeah. Well,
Good gracious.
I'll say that. I'll say that you don't have to do the half. You can still move it 2. That's fair.
Okay.
So I can move up here for 5 squares and then 1. Or no, wait, I can only move 3 because I'm also slowed. So I can move that to there. Yeah. All right. So next in the turn order is our good friend the Kobold.
It's about Puzzly.
Yeah.
Notoriously cowardly. I don't know that we've got a whole lot that I can run away to, other than running down the road and letting them run me down.
Yeah, don't try to outrun a wolf. It's probably not a good idea.
But so most of my experience is more 3rd edition with D&D, or at least recently it's the equivalent of. So should I be thinking like that, like, get on the other side of a token to flank it and that kind of stuff?
Yes, there's absolutely flanking in this game. So you can definitely do that. Because this is 4E, there's a lot of abilities in the game that are used to like move other characters around the battlefield, right? So you can take advantage of those. Another thing which doesn't really factor very much into this battle, but is a part of this game, is that you can have... if you've ever played XCOM...
I mean, I've seen people play it.
Yeah, like... they took the cover system from XCOM for this game, so you can have either half cover or full cover. And I believe if you are behind someone else, you get... I think you get cover from them. But in normal situations, say like... say here, like this bridge post, if you were behind that, then you would get like maybe half cover. Which is relevant if people are trying to do like ranged attacks against you, that kind of thing. But we'll get into the cover system if it becomes relevant.
Okay. So as not to take up too much time, this area 3 squares north of me, is that a hill that wolf can jump down from, or does it need to kind of come around the hillside?
It actually, yeah, this is not like a super large hill, so it will be able to move down the hill.
Okay.
And if you want to move up the hill, you're going to be moving at half your speed, half your normal speed.
Right.
You'll have to spend 2 to move up there. Or since you're already in bad terrain, it'll be you'd probably have to spend your whole movement to get up the hill.
Now, in terms of equipment that we have, is that sort of hand-wavy?
It is very hand-wavy.
Okay.
So every character gets a basic melee attack and basic ranged attack.
Okay.
And in addition to that, you get all of the attack abilities on your character sheet. And weapons, like, don't matter. It's only a thing that can give you bonuses here and there, but we're not like concerned with like any particulars of items you have.
Alrighty. So, I did have an ability which I think is moot now. Ambushing row to get the start of the combat. I could have moved, but
oh shit,
that would have been to attempt to find some cover, and I don't think there's anything close enough because of the muddy ground. So I think he is quite afeared of this thing coming up behind him before he comes up to help his friends. He wants to make sure that one to the north doesn't attack us. Can I say that because he has skill with traps and so on. That is his kind of koboldly purview. He's got caltrops or something like that, and he's going to try and throw out a scattering of them along the hillside, so that wolf is going to have some difficulty coming toward us.
Sure. So let's see. Just gonna see if you have any things on your character sheet that could help you with that. You do have you have the trap ability.
But it seems like that's more of a movement thing.
Right.
It says gain your speed in squares of movement. Designate an enemy. If that enemy ends its turn within 5 squares of you, you have advantage on your next attack against it. Oh, so I guess that's the equivalent of, so if it comes through that field of caltrops, then it'll be close enough that I'll have advantage on it. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess that's what that trap thing is. I'm using my trap ability.
Yeah, so you can so you can in every turn you get your movement, you get an action, and you can take free actions. So you can move and then use your trap ability if you like.
Okay. It says designate an opponent. So the enemy that I designate doesn't have to be within 5 squares. It's just if it ends up within 5 squares of me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I will... Actually, let's do this, since these ones in front of us are kind of a threat. I'm going to try and move up to here.
Okay.
So that I'll be flanking that dude, and but I'll still be using my trap ability. I will designate it. So basically, it's automatically within 5 of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I come up, I scatter my caltrops under it, making its footing treacherous.
Okay, so next round you'll have advantage on it.
Correct.
Cool. And one thing to note is with these wolves, they're sticky. So if you move next to them, you lose all subsequent movement for that round. So not an issue for you because you're in the position you want to be in, but just something to note. Another thing that is part of the combat, which you can deal with, is you can assess. So if you take a look at the combat reference handout, this is a at-will roll action. So you can do it in addition to your normal action. You can roll a die and ask the GM that many questions from the lists below about an enemy or about the encounter. So this is kind of like a discern realities for combat. So you can go ahead and do that as well as what you just did.
Oh, okay. So let's see. I gotta go here and it's always just roll 1d6, right?
Yep, it's always 1d6.
And I got a 3.
So are you asking about an enemy or about the encounter?
I guess I'll ask about the encounter. These things are pretty hungry. What would it take for us to simply scare or drive them off as opposed to having to slay each one?
Right. So this is a thing that I forgot to mention, but before you get into combat, normally you kind of set a victory condition. So like you don't just have to kill everything. You can change your objective to make it to be something more specific. So I'll just kind of ask the table, like, what are you looking to do here? Are you looking to drive them off? Are you looking to simply escape? Do you want to kill them all? These are all options.
I'd say that Gorstag would probably want to drive them off. In his opinion, like, humanoids have reason to be violent for no reasons, but animals are generally either scared or abused or hungry or something. So he wouldn't want to just willy-nilly kill these creatures. There's got to be a good reason why they're frenzied like this.
Sure. So I think that I'll set this condition for victory. If you bloody the two gray wolves, then they will be driven off. Other thing to note is that the ravenous wolves are, I believe, what's called goons. So they are much easier to defeat than the gray wolves. So these are the gray wolves, and these are the ravenous wolves. You can see that they have the ravenous wolves have a red health bar, or I don't know if you can see that or not, but okay, yeah. So they are basically easier to take out than the gray wolves.
The grays are the ones that are facing the camera.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, so if you bloody both of those guys, which is to say you reduce them to half health, then they will run away.
Would it be possible to entice/distract them with food or something like that so we could get away, or is that not a long-term viable?
I think
terrorize
that
them in some way.
the thing here is that kind of like their hackles are already up. They've already engaged you in combat, so it would take something out of the ordinary to be able to do that. So yeah, the other questions. How many? What did you roll on your assess?
I got a 3.
Okay, so about the encounter, you can ask the questions: who's really in charge? What can I use against the enemies? What can they use against me? Are there hidden doors or traps? Are there hidden enemies?
I'm sorry, where was that list? That was on
it is on the combat reference handout.
Okay, combat, not player.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I'm taking so long, guys.
It's fine. It's a complex game.
Oh, I see. The big blue box, assess.
Yep.
So I'm kind of presuming the two big wolves are the ones in charge, so I won't ask that. I guess, what can I use against the enemies beyond just our martial prowess, I suppose?
Yeah, I think that you probably... It's difficult to say because you're on a very similar footing in this encounter, in terms of you're both slowed down by the terrain. I do think if you could put some space between you and the enemies, you might be able to then try to distract them with some food if you like lobbed it towards them. But I think you're currently too close to them for that to really be an effective tactic.
Is that little tower on the other side of the bridge like something that we could enter?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Well, I think I've done the stuff I need to. Certainly move on to the next person. But
all right. So next in the turn order, we have Arjan. So what are you gonna do?
Okay. Arjan is just gonna say to make your way towards the bridge, and oops, I got the wrong thing selected. And I'm gonna move 2 because you said I can move 2.
Maximum 2, yeah.
And then, would those 2 consider to be flanking that guy now?
Yes. That wolf. This wolf is flanked.
Okay. So, I will tell Posley, quit spreading your caltrops around and stab him! And I will use my ability to direct the strike. He can make a melee attack against it.
Okay. Cool. So Pasley, why don't we say that you have advantage on this?
Okay.
So you're going to be rolling 2d6, and you're going to be making a basic melee attack, which I believe does 2 damage, yes.
So with the 2d6, I take the higher of the two.
The
Is that how
higher
that
of the
works?
two. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. 2 twos.
All right. So you miss. When you miss, you take a miss token. Spend after a future attack roll for a +1. Or turn 1 to 3 with a strike. So yeah, you can just note down that you have a miss token, and it can give you a +1 on a future attack roll. And because you missed, it's going to trigger the miss trigger for this character. When an enemy misses you with a melee attack, deal it 2 damage. So you're taking 2 damage. You swing at the wolf with your, I don't know, what are you using as a weapon, a dagger or something? And it just jumps to the side and bites your arm.
This is why I run away from things.
The tactical decision making here is sound. However, the result was a little bit less than ideal. All right. Next up, we have Huru. What are you gonna do?
Oh, that's me.
Yes.
I am going to move away the 2 squares, and yep. I don't know if opportunity attacks or anything like that happens.
Actually, yes. In that situation, if you just did a straight move, you would take an attack of opportunity, but you can shift. Or wait, you're slowed, right? So you can't shift.
Yeah, I'm slowed, so I can't shift.
Yeah, so you're going to take an attack of opportunity.
Bring it.
So, I'm going to roll for damage. Just do a standard melee attack against you. Oops. Oh no. I've accidentally hit the back button on my browser.
I think that means you miss.
Yeah, does that mean I miss?
Yeah.
Roll 1D back button. All right, let's. I got a 3.
Okay.
So.
I have forgotten what 3s mean.
This means that I get a glancing hit. I can choose either an effect or to deal damage. And in this case, because this is a basic melee attack and there is no effect, I'm just going to deal the 2 damage to you.
Okay. Cool.
Now you can act.
I can act.
And also, I believe, yeah. So at the end of the round, you'll be able to clear slow. Just we'll remember to do that.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to. I have like a range of 10, which is a lot.
It is a lot.
I think I'm gonna shoot at this wolf up here. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So the northern wolf guy, this guy, he's gonna get a He's going to get an arrow to his face, and
I think, given the angle you're shooting at, it probably counts as him having half cover.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so
sure.
let's just take a look at that because I think it's relevant.
So the rules for your body range attacks. Yep, cool.
Now, does the combat handout have the cover rules?
I have them up here anyway because I was looking at them, which is just incidental cover. If you can't draw an unobstructed line, if you can draw it, they have cover against you, which is cover. Attacks against you have disadvantage.
Okay, so you're rolling with disadvantage. Yeah.
Yep. I might use my encounter power, Bullseye, to gain advantage on the attack, and so it kind of flattens out.
Cancels out, yeah. Makes you do a normal attack roll.
So I will roll 1d6
Go for it.
and go for high. Oof. Oh, bad news. Bad news.
All
I do
right.
bad. 2 is a miss.
Yep. So take that miss token, and just gonna check the miss condition for this guy. You may when an enemy misses you, you may grab it if it is adjacent, or move your speed towards it if it is not. So it's gonna take the opportunity here to move.
I fucked up real bad.
All right, so let's see here. I think it's just gonna come barreling down this hill. So we can move up to 3. Yeah, it's coming. All right, so do you want to do an assess before you finish your turn here? Sid?
Sorry, I muted myself. I was having a great chat.
You're muted.
So I can either assess or I can weaken someone within 5 squares.
Ooh,
So
that sounds
I
pretty good
think
too.
I might weaken this guy, the southern one.
All right. Okay, go for it. So is it an automatically applied effect?
It's I'll read you what's on there, and you can tell me because I don't really know.
Okay.
Sap strength, roll at will. So it's a roll type.
Uh-huh.
Usage at will, five ranged effect. Target is weakened until the end of its next turn.
Okay, so you're gonna roll for that, yeah. And if you get I believe it's if you get a 3, 4, 5, or 6, you can apply the effect.
Okay, cool. Man, I'll bump that up to a 3. I'll use my miss token.
Okay, cool. Good idea. So you can apply the effect. This enemy is now weakened. What does that look like? How do you do that?
Interesting question. I think I So anyone throw me some ideas. How would a ranger weaken a creature without shooting it in the eye? Interesting.
Maybe you caused it to run a different way and it like tripped over some brambles and like I don't know, has like a bum leg or something.
Yeah, I like that actually. Yeah, because it's the controller powers are all like coded magical, which is interesting. Yeah, I think like take a shot at it as it's juking around, and steps one way to avoid the arrow, rolls its paw, and just gives it that.
Cool. And just remember, you can make this character as Witcher-like as you want. If you want to have cool traps and stuff that you use, it's totally on the table as well.
Use my little signs.
Yeah, so this character's weakened. That's great. So basically, just to let everybody know, the effect of weakened is you half your damage. So good job there. Now it is the time for the Grey Wolves to act. All right. So they're not slow. They can move up to 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. That's the best we can do. Let's see what I got here in terms of combat options. Oops.
Got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, actually, I don't have a lot of great options here. Just gonna have to move up and prevent this guy from getting flanked. That's pretty much all I can do. Okay, and the next Grey Wolf. Can move down so we can get off this hill. Unfortunate thing about that is that they're no longer going to have any cover, but they are going to be closer to engaging. Alright, so that is the Grey Wolf's turn. And now we are on to Gorstog's turn.
All right. Well, plenty of targets here. So
yeah,
can
I
you
think
tell
you're
me a
set
little
up
bit?
pretty much perfectly here to do your your burst attacks.
Yes. So I was going to ask about that. So I'm seeing this ability called Blaster. It's got a multi-target boost. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works?
Sure. I'll just have a quick look here. Okay, so yeah, so Blaster is like your subclass that you have.
Okay.
So basically what this means is if you make a melee attack, you can make it a burst 1 attack targeting all creatures in the zone. So like every square adjacent to you, or sorry, I'll map it out right here. So if you did a melee attack against this character, you would also burst into this square, this square here, and also this square here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not centered on me, it's centered on the target.
It's centered on the target, and the burst attacks never affect you.
Okay.
They can affect allies, though, so that's something to note. But you're kind of set up perfectly here to not have to worry about that.
Right. And I think that's my only burst attack, right?
Yes, that is right, because you're basically like you've got like your giant hammer and you can just lay into groups of enemies. Is kind of the idea here.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gorstag is going to take an assessment of his surroundings, and he's going to reach down and grab a clump of mud and smear it down his face, and then it's just a mix of hair and mud, and he's going to open his beady eyes real wide and crazy and let out a roar, and then he's going to lift up his hammer and go to town on the wolf in front of him and to his right.
All right, so what ability are you going to use here?
So I guess I am. So is the ability called multi-target boost?
No, that is just a thing that applies to all your melee
That's just
attacks.
A thing. Okay, so am I looking for a skill?
Yes, your class powers are the things that you can use here to attack. So any one of these that says attack next to the type are things you can use to attack. And then if you get an effect, then you can use the effect that is listed in the E box. In addition to your damage.
Okay, I must have missed the attacks here. Oh, is that on the
on your character sheet?
Is that on the tactical page?
Yeah, it's on the combat page under class powers and features.
Okay, so I've got I see. Okay. So maybe I want to use. Does it make sense to use primal compulsion then to push the targets away?
Yeah, you can totally do that. So it will be applied separately to each character you attack. So you have to make an attack roll against each of them, and we'll see which ones get the effect.
Okay, and then I can use my action point to get an advantage on one of those attacks?
I think that counts for both, actually. If you spend the action point, because it's one action being applied to each character in the burst area.
Okay, and I think that's my best bet. So it does damage plus it slides the targets away 2 squares.
If you get if you get an effect applied, it will also slide them. So it depends on what your roll result is, whether you can do damage
so I
or
will
effect.
use my action point, so I'll roll 2d6 then for each.
Yep,
so
you roll 2d6 twice.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the regular wolf in front of me.
Okay.
Oops, sorry. Oh, okay, so so it's
you
a
got
2
1
or
6.
Yeah,
Awesome.
a 6.
Okay, so what that means, according to the results, is that you get a crit, which means you double damage and apply the effect.
Okay.
So your damage on that attack is listed as a 2. That's where it says R2 means you roll for a 2.
Okay.
And so that's going to do 4 damage. So it will shift the character down to here, but because this is a goon, you're also hitting their threshold damage, which means they're just dead. Like, they're gone. So, goodbye, Wolf. Now, let's roll for this guy.
Okay. Gorstag laughs. Ha ha! You are no bear.
Nice.
All right. Let's see if I can get a good result on the other one. Okay, so 5 is my best on that one.
Okay, you got a 5. So it's not a crit, but I believe you do still get to do damage and apply an effect.
Okay.
Now, quick question. His ability gives him advantage, but does he already have advantage from me flanking with him?
No, I
And
believe
in
the
that ca-
advantage only counts for you.
Okay.
I think. Unless the skill description says otherwise.
No, okay, I guess what I was asking before about the flanking was just the position granting advantage
Oh, okay, sure.
of surrounding him.
Yes, I believe that is how that works. But these two enemies are not flanked.
That's right. Yeah, just the one.
This one is flanked. Yeah, and he was attacking down at the bottom.
Yes. Yeah, the 2 ones that are, I guess, south of me. Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Okay, so let's roll for the Grey Wolf then. Oh, right.
Okay, so
you got your
what
5, so you do your damage and you apply the effect. So where do you want to shift the wolf? Shift him 2
let's
squares.
shift him toward the river, so he ends up kind of near the rocks there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, and then they're also going to be... so minus... All right, it's done. And I'm just going to double check to make sure there's no special effect that they get. Nope. There's nothing they can do about that, so they're just moved. So do you want to do
Can I have thrown him into the pillar at the base of the bridge with that? Because that's 2 away as well. Right?
Okay, yeah, sure. Maybe this is like a big like swing that like rotational power is just like boom, like okay. So you want to yeah, I don't know if there's a rule for taking extra damage if you get slid into a wall. Maybe, but I don't think that would apply. So do you want to move like this?
Sure, that'll work.
Yeah, okay.
Let's just say for effect, he bounces off of the pillar and he ends up in that, that space.
Cool. All right. So that is your turn. And now we're back to the top of the turn order, so everybody gets to remove slow. Just gonna do that. And this guy's still weakened. So now it is back to our kobold friend. Yeah. Pasley, it is your turn.
Not to try to punish myself, but didn't those wolves go before me?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I just don't see them on the turn order.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there with the turn order. That's weird, but you're right. Thank you for being honest. Cool. Well, I gotta do something here. I'm in a bad spot.
I I snarl in Kobold, run away.
So, I'm gonna spend my movement to shift. And I'm going to I think I'm gonna use come here against Posley. Yeah. So let's see how this goes. Ooh, that's a miss.
Yeah.
That's a miss.
That was entirely due to my own skill and not due to the luck of the roll.
Miss and you gain a strike. Okay. So that's bad for them. So cool. I don't know how that works. I don't think the enemy team can get strikes. So we'll deal with strikes. They basically affect what the outcome of the battle is. It's similar to in Burning Wheel, if you're doing a duel of wits or combat, like you get like a minor concession or major concession. So it depends on how many strikes you have, like what the outcome of the combat is, what kind of position it puts you in after the battle, narratively. So anyway, that's not terribly relevant, but they're definitely going to miss. And do you have like some kind of ability that triggers on an enemy missing you?
I think I actually have one that triggers if it hits me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So cool. That's right. So actually, nothing happens there. So yeah, So describe, like, why they miss you. Like, what does Posley do to get out of this wolf's way?
Well, I think that more or less the wolf is just sort of startled by the ferocity of the attack that it just saw and is kind of tripping over its own legs. When, canines tend to get all nervous and scared, its tail sort of skitters. But at the same time, when they back up and bump into something, they sort of lash out. And so she just sort of twists to the side, whips up her dagger, and it stumbles all over itself, not to cut itself all over that blade, and ends up way off to the side.
Cool. Nice. So, this gets to move. However... I think this is an opportune time to deploy the special event happening in this map. So I'm going to move over there. So move over here. And yet, you hear from within the tower a female voice. And she says, "Stupid dogs! Get out of here!" And you see something come flying out of the tower, and then you hear just a boom, and the night lights up. There's just this searing white light that comes into the night, and you hear this yelp, and this wolf is gonna be see what the appropriate condition here is, but I think it's something like blinded. By this like weird phosphorus thing that the woman in the tower threw at it. Yeah, blinded. So it always attacks with disadvantage. Let's see, it's got to be a. I guess this is blinded here. Cool. All right, so this guy's in trouble. And I think that's all my movements. So Arjun, go ahead and go ahead and make a move. I think you might.
Wait, did I get skipped or?
Oh, right. Sorry, Pasley. Yeah, because I forgot that for some reason I got removed from the turn order. I don't know what that was about. So, go ahead.
Okay. So actually, I had a quick question. When I did that trap thing,
Yep.
it says it's a move action. So would that actually?
Oh.
I would have been able to attack as well as do that,
Yeah.
correct?
You're right. You're
Okay.
right.
All right. So I think I don't know how much of this I can do at the same time. Can you use a roll action and a move action
Yes.
and an attack? Okay.
Yes, you can. Yep.
Okay. So then, and shifting doesn't cause them to. You said they're sticky, but I can still shift. Correct?
Oh yeah, no, it's if you move next to them that ability procs. So you can move them however you like. It's like if you move next to them, then your movement for the turn is canceled out. But if you're
But if
next
I'm
to them, it
already
doesn't
next
have
to
any
them-
effect.
Okay.
You actually have to move into the square in order for that to happen.
Okay. So actually, then I think I will continue digging into my pockets, throwing out my caltrops. I'm going to use trap again.
Mm-hmm.
This time against that wolf coming down the hill.
Okay.
But trap, I gain my speed in squares as well as doing that. So I'm going to move to flank this guy while throwing off caltrops to keep that one in the north away from me.
Okay, so
And
you
then-
would only be able to move here though because of sticky procking. Right.
Okay,
'Cause
so
you,
then
you move next to them and then you're stuck. That's what's going on there.
Okay, so then I would be so.
Yeah, you'd be there.
I guess I would use trap to move to here
Okay.
and be throwing stuff at that guy,
Okay.
and then use my quick shift, which I'm a kobold,
Yeah.
to get that extra space of move.
Okay.
And then I'll try and stab this guy in the back with some advantage.
Oh yeah. All right.
That's high level tactics.
Go for it. Roll that d6.
Yeah, so I can roll my double ones.
Okay, 2 4s.
2 4s.
All right.
I think I'm going to spend my what do you call it? My
Action point?
well, my
Or-
not
oh,
my
your
action
your
point,
miss
my,
token.
my miss. Yeah, to bump that up to a solid hit from a glancing hit. But I guess my question is, what effects can I put on it? Just anything that.
It
I
would be it's
think
the
is-
effect that is listed in the attack that you were making.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you choose a class power, an attack type class power that you want to use,
No, I just
or
had to
you can
use
make a
basic
basic attack.
So a basic attack doesn't have.
It has no effect. Yeah. So with a 4, you are already getting a solid hit. So if
Okay.
you
So there's no reason. To
if
bump
you
it up to
yeah
a
if you
5.
spend your miss trigger, that will only bring it up to a 5, which is still just a solid hit. So it wouldn't actually give you a bonus. So you
Okay.
can just deal your 2 damage to it.
And actually, I believe because I am a striker,
Yep.
Yeah, you do.
damage boost when I roll a 2 to 5, I deal an extra point of damage. So I do 3, not 2.
Awesome. Cool. So that means actually the way that these characters work, it's kind of like they take if you do a 4 or more damage to them, they're taken out instantly. If you do less than that, they get 1 more hit and then they're dead. That's how they work.
Okay.
So it's not super relevant, but it is good to know, definitely. And
Okay.
cool to explore your class powers.
Okay.
Okay, so you have made a roll action, you've made a move action, and you've made an attack. So I think you're done for the turn.
You know what? Having heard that voice, can I also try to assess
You
what's
can't
going on?
because you spent your roll action. Assess counts as a roll action.
That's a roll. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Cool. Thanks.
Cool. All right, so let's move on. Now it is Arjon's turn. You're muted.
Wonderful conversation with myself. You all missed it. Yeah, so I'm going to move down here.
Okay.
And I am going to try to do the wolf pack tactics. So I have to roll a d6 to see if this happens.
Okay.
And it doesn't.
2. Okay. You don't have a missed token to spend.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah, I think that's just going to be a miss there, unfortunately.
I get something. What is it? When you roll a 6, you take an addition. When you hit, you get a support token. When you so no, with the 2, I get nothing. All right.
So you you tried to attack this wolf, and you missed. So it does trigger its miss trigger. When an enemy
trying
misses,
to lure him in.
What's
boy.
that? Yeah.
I was trying to lure him in.
It was once again. It was a sound tactical plan. However, this wolf is pissed and it grabs you. So you now count as being grabbed, and that is going to let it do some nasty stuff to you. So let's see. Maybe this one.
Sure.
Cool. So you can still spend a roll action. You're not dead yet. You can spend a roll action still if you like.
Sure. What exactly is a roll action? So that's just doing the assess? Is that the only thing? Or
so you have
else
assess,
is
and
there?
also if you look under your roll powers, you'll see that you have both tactics and heal that you can use as roll actions. So one ally of your choice may move immediately, or the target may regain hit points equal to half its maximum HP, rounding down. And if they're prone, they can stand up. Yeah. Anyway, we'll deal with it. So which would you like to use? Would you like to use tactics or heal? Or you can assess.
I would like to use. Is anyone exceptionally hurt?
So one thing to note.
I've taken 3.
Yeah,
I've taken.
If you want to bring someone up to full life, they do get advantage on their next attack. And oh well, there's a lot of options here actually. So first pick someone to heal, and then we'll talk about what they can do because they're being healed.
I think Pasley is probably closer to death.
Sure.
Well, I think I only lost 2, and everybody starts with 10, right?
Everybody starts at 10. Yeah.
Okay,
so
if
I
everybody starts with 10, then I'll heal the barbarian, the Gorstag.
All right. So
I know he took a couple hits.
You regain 5 HP, Gorstag.
Wow. Potent.
And in addition to that, you can pick one of these following options. You can choose to have advantage on your next attack. You can choose to make it so enemies have disadvantage to attack you until the end of your next turn. Or you can make a saving throw against a status that you have, but I don't think you have any statuses right now. So you can choose either to have advantage or to basically get cover.
Let's see. What's the battlefield looking like right now? I guess I have a wolf near me, but I think if there's an opportunity for me to do more hammering, I'm probably going to take that. So I'll take the advantage on my next attack.
Okay.
I realize I never actually probably said what my assess discovered, but I think everybody knows the win conditions, right? But
yeah,
if we hurt local leaders, they'll all run away. Cry out.
Cool. All right, so that is your turn, Arjan. And now it is time for Huru to act. What are you going to do?
I am going to move away. Yep, you're on your own. I'm not slowed anymore either, so
You're
I can
not
move.
slowed. No, you can move 3 spaces.
Actually, if I stay still, I can add things to my attacks, and I do need to add things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sniper skills.
Yeah. I just plant my feet, look over it, and like just send a shot over or between Arjun's legs at the wolf grabbing him.
Okay.
That doesn't.
So
the grab doesn't affect my roll at all, does it?
So here's what's going on with that. They are gonna. Well, first you should roll to see what happens. So one thing I will say is, if you're going to make that attack, this enemy does have cover, like half cover, so you would be rolling with disadvantage.
All right, I'll go for the other one then. That's a better idea. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna try and pin down the other one so that this guy in the north.
Nice.
So let's get some d6s on the roll. Roll 1d6.
And ooh,
out. I do add 1 to it though. That's
boy. Oh, 1. Okay.
Add 1 if it's a hit. So I don't even add 1 as is.
I'm gonna spend one of my action points, or I'm gonna spend my only action point. For my tactical reserve. The ally may re-roll the attack.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You're a good friend. All right.
Because if you get I just want to let you know, if you roll that 1, it means that your team gets a strike.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
That's better. That's better.
That's a hit, so it's a 4. Is that right?
It does 4 damage.
No. So 3 is a glancing hit. So because I didn't move, it goes up to a 4.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so you get a solid hit there.
All right. So the damage is 2. And the effect is if the target moves more than 1 square on its next turn, it takes 3 damage.
Okay, so it's basically pinned down. So I'm gonna come up with some kind of, or no, that's not the good one. This is the good one right there.
That's spot on.
Yeah. Nice.
It takes 2 damage, and I have my roll action left, which I might use I'll use to weaken the one that's grabbing Arjun.
You're just gonna continue the weaken effect.
Yeah,
it's already weakened, so you'll just extend it to the next round if you succeed.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure weakening only lasts for the round.
Yeah.
Man, there's lots until the end of its next turn, which has been so I'll roll for that one again, I think.
Oh, right. Sorry, I should have removed weekend.
Roll 1d6.
Or no, wait. It hasn't actually acted yet. It just did the grab as a reaction on a miss. That's what happened there. Yeah. So.
Okay, cool.
So you got a 6.
Yep.
Okay.
6.
So the effect is applied until the end of its subsequent turn. Yeah.
Subsequent turn. Cool.
Awesome. All right, so it is time for it to act now. So just because I can, I'm going to do some fun things. Oh yeah. All right, so here's an interesting question. Does the weekend affect this ability? I believe it does.
It affects, from what I can say, all damage.
All damage. And it's rounding down. Yes. Okay.
If it affects me being eaten, yes.
So, so what it's going to do is it's going to do its movement. 1, 2, 3. So it's going to move down here and also drag you with it because it's got you grabbed. And it's going to use its crushing attack, which would normally do 3 damage to you. However, because it's weakened, it's only able to do 1 damage. So it's probably, got like it's got like a hold on you, and it's got enough of a hold on you to drag you along, but you feel that its grasp is weakening somehow. It's just not enough. It's worrying away at the flesh of your arm or something, but it's just not really doing that crushing that you might expect from the jaws of a wolf. Cool. So let's move on now to our barbarian.
All right. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to charge at this gray wolf that has our friend grappled, and use my hammer like a SWAT officer would use a battering ram on a door, and just charge at full blast and batter this wolf into the rocks that it happens to be standing right next to.
So charging is a thing you can do, and I believe now there's move up to your speed to a square adjacent to a creature and make a melee basic attack against it. Each square of movement must bring you closer to the target. You cannot charge through difficult terrain. Okay. So, yeah, you just get to do that, I guess. It doesn't say
a snarl with like
does anything
snot
special.
crusted in my mustache, breathing heavily, and I just unload. I just run at full speed.
All right. So you're moving down here.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, make that roll.
And I have an advantage, I believe, still from the heal earlier.
Yes, you do.
So roll
You do.
2d6. And
You got that
I got a
6.
Yeah.
All right, so that's 4 damage that you're doing. So do you want to spend a roll action?
A roll action to learn more about the encounter.
Yeah. And your other roll action is precision.
Oh, right.
So
to impact my next burst attack.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually relevant though, because there's not many enemies left to burst against.
No, I don't think I'm too inquisitive about the battlefield at this point, since it's pretty clear what's going on. I guess one thing I
will note, you can also move because you charged, which is an attack action. So you can move in addition to that. That's what the advantage is to charging.
Okay. Is there any way that I can use that movement to try to get my friend out of danger?
Why? I think that would count as an action, not as a move.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Then I'll just stay there and continue to look intimidating so that the wolf has another target.
And yeah, to note, to get out of the grab, Arjun, you can make a save on your next turn to do that. You can make a saving throw. That's how that works.
And I guess taking that roll action is a free action, right?
Yes, it's not a free action; it's a roll action, but you get one of those every turn. Yeah,
Okay,
free action is a
so-
thing you can just do whenever. Yeah,
Gotcha. So I rolled a 3, so I can ask a few questions.
yeah. You can ask 3 questions about the encounter or one of the enemies you choose.
Okay, and sorry, I missed it the first time. Are those like set questions, or can I just ask?
They
whatever
are
comes to
set
mind?
questions. You'll see them under assess on the combat reference.
Okay, let me pull it up real quick. Combat reference, assess. Okay, so we've heard the voice of the person who seems to be in charge, but do I recognize or do I know who this could possibly be?
You can place it as an older woman's voice. Definitely, she seems to be the owner or the resident of the tower that you saw in the distance.
Okay.
And I don't like. I mean, I'm like, you can tell she has some kind of alchemical ability because she was able to come up with this crazy like flashbang grenade.
Sure.
But that's probably about the extent of it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Are there any other wolves that are hidden in the field here, the opening?
No, these wolves are like too hungry to really be, that cunning. They're just going for it.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess the last thing I can ask, is there anything nearby that I can use on this wolf to try to separate it from my friend?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Maybe maybe you could like try to hit it into the rocks. I mean,
Okay.
so if you want to, we'll say you can make an attack next round, or even just tell Arjun to do it, and that will give advantage on the saving throw to break grabbed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tell Arjun, its back is hurt. Bash it against the rocks.
Cool. All right. Let's keep going here. It is now time for the ravenous wolves to act. Probably their last action, I have to say. So let's move the blind wolf first, and let's see if they can do anything. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So still moving up. This one. Okay, what's the range on this? Ooh, that would not be good. So let's go ahead and shift here. Then, you guessed it, I'm going to use come here again. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to use come here on Gorstag, I think. Well, yeah, I think that's the best thing to do. Okay. Oops. 2. That's a miss. So, takes a miss token. Otherwise, just so, yeah, like, I think it leaps at you to try to, like, drag you over. But maybe it's just, like, it can't get purchase against your armor. Just, like, kind of bounces off and sort of whimpers.
Nice.
All right, let's move on to Pasley's turn. Oh, actually, we get to see another flashbang go off here. So let's see. So from here, I'm gonna zoom out a bit. Do this. So it's just barely within range. Yep. So this guy's gonna get blinded too. So you see another strange spherical object come flying across the river. They got that advantage of height, and just boom. Probably from behind all of you, you just kind of see like it hit, or it's like you see your silhouette outlined in front of you, and yeah, this wolf is blinded as well. So they're not having a good time. Oops. Okay. So anyway, let's continue on to Arjun's turn.
Don't you mean Pasley?
Oh, Pasley's turn. Yes. Sorry. I'm gonna get these turn orders fixed up. Don't you worry.
Excuse me. Okay. You know what? How do ranged attacks essentially work the same as a melee basic or whatever?
You can make so because you don't have any special ranged attacks, you can make a ranged attack with a range of 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I was thinking I don't want to move closer to that wolf. There's no one there to support me, so I'm just going to chuck a knife at it.
Good plan. All right.
And let's actually type.
Okay,
Hey.
it is definitely dead. So what does that look like?
Okay. Let's see. It's probably kind of turning in half circles, seeing as it just tried to, snatch at Gorstag. And as it's sitting there distracted by him, I kind of pull out one of my knives and size it up and wait for that moment that it's just accidentally turning toward me, and then sling it sort of sidearm so that it's less that I hit it perfectly and more that it almost like snaps at the dagger as it's flying, and the dagger buries itself in its throat.
Yeah, it was leading into that hit. Okay, that's rough. So yeah, that is one dead wolf.
And then I think, let me double check this because maybe it does not work. Nah, they have to be within 2 squares. So I guess right now my best bet is to try and... Oh, I'm a freaking kobold, of course. What am I going to do? I'm going to move 3 squares into all these bushes and trees down here and hide.
Good plan.
So
you can say that you have probably like
2,
half cover there.
Oops. 3.
Or maybe even full cover if you're hiding behind a tree,
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, now it is Arjun's turn.
I've got a better idea than bashing you against the rocks. How about a face full of fire?
Yeah.
I'm going to try and use my dragon breath.
Oh!
Or my fire breath. Okay, it's like the Bombardier's grenade at will power, which I have up over here. Choose. I guess I just roll for it like normal, right?
Yes, you roll for it
It
like
says it's a
normal.
cone. Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
note that. Yeah, no, you're totally fine in that location to use it. So go ahead and roll for it. Yeah. So it's
Yeah, I'm
gonna
just trying to get it
it's
right in
gonna be
space,
like
pretty much.
here, 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 uh, here, and then on the wolf. Yeah, that's the cone.
Yeah, 4's
Of
fair.
4. Okay. So the hot, was it hot bomb ammo?
Yes.
Okay.
The hot bomb is it is 2 damage,
Yep. And
and
if they stay
and
in the zone, they take 3 damage at the end of their turn.
yes.
Yep. Oh, if they take any action in the zone that doesn't result in them leaving it, or if they end their turn in the zone, they take 3 damage. So, yeah, this is big damage, possibly. So they're gonna be reduced 2 damage. All right. And you can also roll to make your saving throw, I believe, to break the grab. So let's see here. Saving throws. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to be in the combat reference. So I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I didn't see it in either one of the reference thingies.
Yeah. Saving throw. It's gonna be back up here. Might have found it. Yeah, roll a die. On a 4 to 6, you succeed. On a 1 to 3, you fail.
Wonderful. Yet another thing I'll fail. Yeah, there it is.
So you're still grabbed. Like, what does that look like? Like, so you like, you know,
I figure since
rear
he
back,
just
you
weakly
get
has
your
me,
dragon
basically
breath
just has me by the
going, but
So I figure since he just kind of weakly has me, it's pretty much just like by the arm. So I just kind of unleash and probably like set my own robe on fire. Or get off of me!
nice. So this is a really, really unhappy wolf. All right. So that is your turn, I believe. Unless you want to make a roll action.
I'm good for the moment.
Okay. All right, so Huru, how's it going over there? What are you gonna do?
It's going great. I'm gonna get out of here. You're doing well with breathing fire and stuff like that. I'm just moving three of my squares straight up.
Okay.
And I'm going to check my at-wills quickly. Well, flip and then air to miles. Okay. All right. So I'm going to this guy. I'm gonna pin down that one.
Okay.
And I've moved so I don't get an extra thing. But so what I'm kind of going for here, as a controller, if I hit something, I can either slow it or move it a couple of squares.
Sure.
So Huru's kind of trying to position herself so that the wolf is between her and the edge of the bridge, and if she hits it, she's going to try and push it off the
bridge.
Off the bridge.
Cool.
So yeah, kind of taking a couple of shots to set it up, and then takes the big one. 4. All right. I've moved, so I get an extra 1. So I get the effect or the damage.
Yep. And which one do you want?
I think I'll. So
You got a.
pushing
Oh
it.
yeah, you got a 4. Don't you get both?
I don't
4 or
know.
5 is
I
both the
don't
effect
know
and the
this.
damage.
Maybe I don't know how this game works. 4/5. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do get both.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that one's got the pin down status. If it moves more than 1 square, it gets some extra damage.
So how many spaces does it shift because of your hit?
2, I think.
Okay.
Let
So,
me check. 3 squares.
Okay.
3.
you wanna-
So we'll go. Yeah, 3 kind of like back into here, maybe.
Sure. So then, does the pin down thing proc? I don't think so, right? It's on its
No,
turn, right?
Yeah, forced movement doesn't count. It's if it moves, if it chooses to move.
Okay, cool. So it's stuck in this water, and maybe it's going to be taken out of the fight, just it washed downstream.
I'm hoping so. The other thing I've got is I don't want to do my weekend. I can't do my weekend thing, sorry, because nothing's within 5. So I might. And I don't think I've got anything to ask with assess.
Well, I will point
So-
out one thing that you guys keep kind of overlooking here is that with assess, you can check to see how much HP an enemy has. So
Good idea.
idea. Given
I'll
that the
assess.
victory condition is to reduce them to half life, it could be useful to check out their HP totals.
All right. So it's a 5 on assess, which gives me
5
5
questions.
questions. But so all right, these larger wolves. How many hit points does it have?
Which one are you looking at here?
Let's say the one that's being surrounded by everyone.
It's down to 2 HP, so
Okay.
it is well under half.
I got enough questions. So what about the one to the north? How many hit points does that one have?
So is that how assess works? You can do it for multiple enemies.
Well, I can ask that many questions. So
About
I don't know, just an enemy, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't say you have to choose one. So yeah, cool. Yeah, so this one is at 8 HP.
Okay, 8. And are there any hidden doors or traps?
No, basically the trap was kind of against the enemies.
Yeah.
They ran afoul of the flinging grenades.
True. All right. I think that's all I'm going to ask then. And
Sure.
I'm going to... And I'm definitely taking up a defensive posture against that northern wolf that's going to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna come
I'm not
for
liking
you.
the fact that... Yeah, I don't like that at all.
All right, so let's see how many squares it can move. 1, 2, 3. It's coming. Just double check I got that right. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so it's gonna take the what is it? How many damage does it take from pinned?
3.
3 damage. Okay. So actually, what happens here is it gets reduced to half life by being pinned, and you have succeeded in achieving the victory condition. So what does that look like when you use the pin condition against it?
So I think it's just an arrow through a part of the paw, and in order to move itself, it kind of pulls, and that tears away at some of the tendons of the foot. It takes the next step onto that foot, and just pain shoots up, and that's enough to make it realize it can't chase us down.
Right. So the pack is either dead, singed, submerged in a river, or lame at this point, and it just kind of lets out a bunch of barks to the other wolves to retreat. This is sad. So you're now in a position where so the combat is over. We'll say that you get that you didn't get any strikes, so you get a total victory against the enemies. There's no additional complications added to your situation because of the way things played out. Um, what do you do as the wolves sort of take their leave? Like one of them's just kind of like helplessly going downstream, but the other two are just like kind of like walking away. What do you
Huru, shoot that one.
That's right. You better run.
do?
Let them pass.
Oh, so conflicted. So conflicted.
We have another
Alright.
enemy, clearly. I start stomping toward the tower.
She's not an enemy. She helped us.
We shall see.
Yeah. If you get firebombed with one of those blind things.
Yeah, so you
Come
just
out, witch!
you hear a voice from above, just like, that's very insulting. But I have use for you. Get in here.
We shall see these uses. And I go through the door.
Yeah, so you can go inside the tower. There's actually a fire on in here. You immediately feel the warmth of the hearth kind of creep into your aching, cold bodies from having been on this miserable road overnight. And if you come inside, you see that there are two figures, two people seated inside. Like one of them has just sat down again. You recognize it as the woman who is throwing the grenades. She is in her middle age. She's wearing kind of like a warm robe. It's kind of ratty. It's nothing fancy. She's just it's obviously something she just wears around the house to keep warm in the middle of the kind of, this is maybe like fall weather or something. And she's got long hair that's like graying in places. And she's a human. And beside her is seated an old man. He is has very drawn, sunken features, and he has a vacant look in his eye. And there's actually a little bit of spittle just like running down the side of his mouth. But you notice that he's wearing a fine robe, and he has a circlet on his head. So what do you do?
Thank you,
Do you
man.
want to take a quick break before we keep going?
Oh yeah, sure, of course. Let's do that. We'll move
Are we
on to
assuming
this.
that we all followed in? Yeah.
Yeah, are any of you staying outside? No.
No, if
Okay.
this barbarian's gonna kill some people, I'll be involved.
Naturally.
All right. Cool.
All right, so I'll see you all. Let's take 10 maybe.
10.
Because we've
Okay.
it's been a while, so yeah.
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks.
What did you think of the combat then?
Feels true to fourth edition. One of the biggest things about it is just like a lot of options, but not a lot of options, but not in the way that like Dungeon World has a lot of options, where you have a lot of options fictionally, but
Yes.
mechanically, there's really only like one or two things that slots into, and you just kind of make that work.
Right.
There's a lot of options, both fictionally and mechanically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a lot of options. So I think again, it's kind of like having to get used to the system a little bit because there's a lot you can do.
The simplified roll thing is much better than fourth edition, where you're like, okay, so I'm rolling this, and it's against reflex, or is it against will?
Oh,
and then you do
yeah.
this save, and then you do that save, and yeah.
That does. I do like the just like the d6. Just roll the d6, and you have advantage, disadvantage, and that's pretty much it, right? Except for conditions, but yeah.
Yeah. And it's also got like the keyword thing as well, where like, okay, this attack blinds them and this attack weakens them. So what's blinded and what's weakened and what's, like there's a stack of keywords in this game.
Yes. Yeah, so I appreciate that because it does allow for some flavor in doing the combat design, the encounter design, but like the first time you play it, it is a little like, okay, let's go look at the glossary again. Like, yeah. And it certainly did help with like doing the conversion over from 4E to just have those in this game, like to be like, okay, well, I can kind of map this thing onto this thing.
I'm definitely curious to see what the other variant of the combat is too. I mean, it is kind of fun sometimes to be able to have like a more tactical experience, but I've gotten used to PBTA at this point, so having it be a little bit more abstracted and
Yeah,
movie like.
and I kind of feel like at this point in the session, like I'm like, okay, well that was neat, that was interesting, but like I'm kind of feeling like, let's move the story forward a little bit. Let's abstract things a little bit more. And like, yeah, I feel like if you have like one tactical combat per session or something like that, that's probably about the pace you want to hit. Unless
I can
you're
see
like
that being
some kind of like ultimate climax battle or something, right?
right. I can see that being a fun variant for like that one like big bad evil guy battle. That you really want to like see how that dragon is interacting with with the surroundings and all that, and how you can tactically affect it.
Right.
Yep. The issue with that in like fourth edition was that your characters were pretty much defined by tactical combat. Like there wasn't really anything else to it. But this seems more like the Burning Wheel sort of thing, where you've got fight and range and cover,
Yes.
but you've also got other stuff about your character that is interesting.
Yeah, this is pretty much the equivalent of range and cover in Burning Wheel,
Yeah.
right? The tactical combat sort of substitutes in for that. Cool. So just wait for Tejas to get here. Yeah, aside from that, did the character design sort of make sense to you? Like the pre-gen characters? Were they easy enough to sort of understand?
I think so. I'm still sort of sussing through. I'd like to at some point play with my shape-shifting abilities a little bit and see how that changes things up.
Right.
But, yeah, I think it's pretty clear.
And do you like, just looking at your actual skill descriptions for the non-combat stuff, do they sort of like read okay? Like it's like, oh, I could probably use this thing in this situation.
I think so. They're a little cut off in the view. The E field is only shows the first few words, so it's a little bit.
Oh, I mean, your like if you go to the like overview and
Mm,
like your skills, like athletics, intimidation.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think we've had too many opportunities to use those yet,
Yeah,
but
not
yeah, I mean,
yet.
I think these definitely track with what I would expect from the character class and
Yeah,
the
so
sort of
like
background that I
I
read.
I think like if we got more used to the system, like I just kind of threw you into that combat because I was like I wanted to get a chance to do the combat in a pretty low stakes environment. Um, but normally you would be able to like kind of use your nature skill in that situation to kind of figure out what to do and maybe avoid it or reduce the number of enemies in the combat or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like you can kind of group your skills with your abilities to do kind of cool effects and boost your abilities and all that. So I'm looking forward to playing with that a little bit more.
Right. Okay, so Tejas is here. Nice.
Yeah,
So
sorry
yeah,
about that.
just to give you a little bit more detail about the space you find yourself in, this tower is not terribly large. It's maybe about 2 stories tall, and it seems like it's quite a cramped space. Like there's like a bed in the corner. There's like pots and pans and like everything like hanging up off the roof and like everything. There's like a little nook for everything in here, and it's pretty clear that like just these 2 people are living here and it's somewhere they had to move into rather than like this being their normal residence. um so yeah, is there well, first of all, I guess that woman will introduce herself. She says, well, take off your cloak, take off your cloaks, take off your rain skins. Don't get the water inside. It's so wet and muddy out there. You're a complete mess. Like, wouldn't expect anything better with the roads being what they are, but nevertheless, this is a small space. Like to keep it clean as I can. It's all we have left.
Well, apologies.
Um, my eyes will sort of flash around the room because obviously here are people who have invited us inside from the cold, and being people, they must have stuff. So I'm just gonna, quickly scope out what their stuff is.
All right, do you have like a skill you want to use for that?
Yeah, I have thievery.
Okay,
I
fair
feel
enough.
like kind of my case the joint. In addition to that, I think I have a trick called case a joint.
Uh
A
huh.
rogue can always find a way in and find out who is watching. So I'm just trying to see if, in addition to their things and goods, obviously they had a trapdoor to get up to the top. They had this front entrance, but what are the other quick points of egress if we have to? Or if I have
Aside
to.
from that, it's pretty much like since you're a kobold, you could probably use the windows.
Okay,
It's-
fair enough.
um, yeah, and I don't think there's anyone else in the building that you need to worry about. But let's see what your skill roll does here. So you just roll a d6.
Okay. Four.
You got a 4. Okay, so that means you got a success. Um, So I think what you kind of like quickly look around, your eyes are darting here and there. You see that there's a lot of like,
I
well,
kind of mask it by shaking off, kind of like a dog.
yeah, your like weird scale fur combination is like
Right.
shaking off water here and there.
I don't want to get in the house. I'm in the doorway.
Yeah, and I think you see that there are like obviously like stocks of food, preserved food here and there, which may be of some use. But there's also a number of like alchemical ingredients, and as far as things that would be obviously valuable to you, I think you do notice in a dusty corner that there is like a kind of ornate case about this large. It looks like a jewelry box of some kind that may be of interest. I think that's kind of what you can pick up as far as what your thievery skill would teach you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so she says, like, I guess you've all taken off your cloaks and stuff, and she's like, oh, just pile them over in the entranceway. We don't have enough room for everyone's things. And
I shrug mine off and throw it on the back of a nice chair, and I say, "This is my best cloak."
Nice.
And I give a toothy grin.
So are you is this an intimidate? Is this what's going on here? Are you making like a link test?
I don't think I think I'm naturally sort of like big and like sort of crazed. So I don't think I'm like necessarily trying to scare her. I'm just just being myself.
Well, I still think I want to roll on this just to see how she reacts.
I love it. All right, let's do it. All right. Boom, 2.
Okay. So that means you get a twist.
Okay.
So I think what this means is she's intimidated. She this huge robe just like gets flopped down onto this chair, and she looks over at it and at your crazy eyes, and she's kind of like takes a step back, realizing that she's brought this enormous man into her tower, and maybe the man beside her starts to get into like a little bit of a coughing fit, because he's a little bit shocked as well, and she kind of like helps him and looks up, and you can tell that, like, she's intimidated, but she may also be a little bit more guarded about what she says and does. Yeah. So she says, well, suit yourself. We have business. And she gestures over to, like, a corner of the room, and there's, like, some boxes. She's like, take some of those. You can sit on them. We don't have chairs for everyone.
Did you need help with something, ma'am?
Yes, it just so happens that I do. Wouldn't be inviting you in otherwise. Strange folk, outsiders. Had enough
You
of those.
normally
in this
hire
town.
people wandering about the street?
And
Well-
call them strange.
In case you haven't noticed, this road has become disused. You're the first stout-looking group of travelers I've seen come through here in some time. Think you might be of use to me.
Out with it.
And what use would that be?
Well, allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Triona, and I am... It is difficult to say what exactly I am in my reduced state, but I was the court wizard of Kiris Alkirk. Do you know the town? Have you heard of it?
Have we heard of it?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I think you might have, like, been on the road, and then people will be like, oh, the road's, like, the bridge is washed out. You'll have to take this old road through Kiris Alkirk. Watch out. Like, that place is no good.
Is that the place that was overran by goblins?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So
Yes, lost to goblins. Horrible what happened.
yes, the goblins, stupid, greedy little creatures. They've taken everything from us. And
I shudder, although it makes it probably more look like I'm baring my teeth. And when she gestures for us to sit down on the boxes, I happen to be sitting on a box kind of close to that jewelry box.
nice. Yeah, and then she like looks over at you and she's like, after the goblins, kobolds came as well. And she kind of gives you like a little bit of an evil eye, like, I'm watching you, kobold. Like,
None of my people will be coming to anybody again. You are not the only people that folks come after. But that's in the past. We're here now. I shrug. What can we do for you?
indeed, indeed.
Do you have anything to eat around here to wash down this history lesson we're getting?
And she looks at you for a moment and then remembers what you just did and walks over and into the kitchen and like pulls out some like jerky and breaks it into pieces and hands it out to the group. Says, I guess this is what passes for our regal hospitality these days. Yeah, so she also is going to introduce. Sorry, the town is called Curistan. Town's called Curistan, and the man beside her, who she introduces, is she says, "Allow me to introduce the last lord of Curistan. This is Curis Alkirk. I suppose you should address him with his appropriate title, but his grace has he's past his prime, and all I can do is look after him and his dotage. And then you just like when you hear his name mentioned, Curis Alkirk is just like lets out like a little like tortured groan, and like a little bit more spittle like runs down his mouth onto his like ornate robe, and like Triona takes out a rag and like clears it off of the robe with it and then puts it away. She says, our town is lost to us. I think it is beyond any small group such as yours to retake it. That is not what I would have you do. But I would like you to enter the town and find something for me. It is an artifact of some considerable power that the Curis family used to defend the city in ages past, but we had thought them all lost. They were what you would call slaying stones. Not of my own construction, but of the construction of a group of tieflings that has since moved on, no longer lives in this area. It is a powerful artifact, but it can only be used once. After that, its power is expended. But it will kill whatever the user wishes it to. We used to use it to take out an orc chieftain here, or some kind of other magical beast that threatened the city. There's many stories of it, but we had thought them all lost and all used. But in my research, I recently discovered that there is one remaining in the city, and I fear what it may be used for. It's the perfect tool for assassination or some other kind of nefarious end. And well, I have an old colleague. We studied together in Hammerfast, in the Lore Guild, where I learned my art.
And you want us to use the stone to kill her. Got it.
No.
Yep.
No, that stone must be destroyed. That is what I want to do with it. But I fear that she was always more of a seeker of power and user of unorthodox tactics to get it. And I fear that she may be after the stone as well, to use for darker ends. So I want you to get the stone, and I want you to bring it here for me to destroy.
Is there no way we could destroy it there?
No, it requires a ritual to properly annihilate. If you were to simply smash it, the shards would retain some of their original power. I want it completely gone from this world.
Hmm.
And
There
will that
is-
restore your drooling liege?
No, there's nothing left for us but to fade into history. I can defend us here in this tower. The goblins leave us alone well enough, but there is no retaking the city.
So it's more a matter of cleaning up after yourselves, not leaving dangerous things around.
Yes, you have it. You're quite intelligent for a kobold.
That's offensive.
Sly. I like the word sly. Sly means smart, right? Is there something lost in translation there?
She just like looks at you like, And but it is as you say. I simply wish to remove the last remnants of the infernal legacy of the Curus line.
Mm-hmm.
We dealt with tieflings and brought things into this world that should not have been done.
Well, I have no love for dangerous baubles that might hurt the natural order around us.
Yes, and if you do this work for me, I'll ensure that you are compensated, and I will accompany you some ways along the road towards Hammerfast, ensure that you get to your destination, as I assume that is where you were headed.
You'll accompany us, but what about him?
Well, I will simply take you through the most treacherous parts of this path, and I will return to take care of him. He's not long for this world, but I have
Yeah, I
to
don't think
offer
we're gonna
you
have to-
some gesture of gratitude if you will do this work for me.
I don't think we're going to have to worry about who looks after him for much longer.
Aw,
Yeah, it's
that's kind of sad.
it's sad.
That's very unkind.
I mean, goblins are wretched things.
She means he's gonna die.
And Triona says, "I'm well aware of that. I was a scholar once. No more than probably all of you put together."
Probably forgot more.
Do you know where we'll find this slaying stone?
Uh,
And what makes it different than any other stone?
well, the stone itself. So I think she describes the details of the slaying stone. It is. So, she tells you that. Okay, first of all, I will give you the map of the town. That is a good thing. So here we are. So this is the town of Kuristan. She hands each of you a little copy of this map.
Well labeled and everything. You must really have been waiting for somebody.
And she says, cartography was one of my lesser pursuits, but nonetheless one I am proud of. And she says that the Slaying Stone is probably within the old library, one of the temples in town, or in the Curus estate. So the Curus estate, I believe, is this one here. And where's the... There we are.
Say probably 369.
The 3 is the library, and the 4 is the temples. The 6 is an burned out inn. So yeah, so she gives you kind of a description of what the different points of interest are. There's a gate to the city. There, near the gate, there's the old slums of the city. That's where kobolds have taken up residence. Then number 3 was the library. Number 4 is the temples that have been ruined. And number 5 is the old market. Number 6 is the inn. Number 7 is the old stables. And number 8 is the hot springs. And number 9 is the old estate. And that's it for all the points of interest. So as for the Slaying Stone itself, she says that it is a twisted mass of glassy black rock with blood red ruins upon it. So, should be easy enough to recognize. Yeah. Unless you find some other crazy magical stones, you'll probably know which one's the Slaying Stone.
Which way does the river flow?
The river. So the river is going to be flowing, I think, from north to south.
We should follow the river down to by the hot springs.
Mm-hmm.
And enter through the woods there.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. So if you want to look at the map and kind of figure out a way to get into the city, you can definitely make your own course. You can enter any way you like.
Where is this relative to us? We would be approaching it from the north?
You'd be approaching from the south. You're south of this. So where the number 1, where the city gate is, there's you're along the road leading in there.
Okay.
And do you have any other
Cover of the
questions?
woods should be helpful.
What's that?
Oh, I was just, of course, I was saying the cover of woods should obscure our approach.
She says, yes, you do seem to be rather uncivilized types. I'm sure you know your way around the woods. Gives a look at you, Haru, especially, because of your previous rather blunt comment about the old man.
Yes, I've found more civility in those woods than in this tower.
Apologize.
I mean, they've been isolated for a while.
Not helping.
Once again, the kobold has more wits than the rest of you. My isolation has caused my manners to fall into neglect. I apologize.
That's what you get for having manners in the first place.
And I think she like walks over and like pulls out like a little flask of brandy and starts drinking it or something. She doesn't offer you any. So is there any further things you want to ask her, or any things you want to do here?
What is this
Kobolds
danger
are
that
all
you think you can help us
around
prevent
you?
by joining us?
The danger on the road?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she says, the roads have all gone wild, and I've traveled them dozens of times. I can get you where you need to go fast and safe.
I see.
I shrug and say, it sounds like a worthwhile cause. Anything that'll bloody the nose of a goblin. Plus, there's got to be stuff that's been left around. It'll be worth our while.
Yes, we had to leave this city in some haste. There certainly are numerous items that the goblins are too stupid to understand the value of, and that you may make use of.
Wise
And
enough to
pretty
seize your
sure
town.
They'll be too stupid to use this slaying stone on us.
Oh, perhaps if they knew its value, they could use it. It is a concern of mine, but I doubt they have discerned its value.
So, a twisty hunk of rock.
I'm more concerned
around.
about my old colleague Dreas and what she may do with it.
If she gets there first, right?
Exactly.
And what does this Dreas look like?
Well, she will be unmistakable, I'm sure, as the only human in town if she appears. But she's about my age. We studied together. She has, well, from what I remember at least, black hair. Usually wore it short. Perhaps the robes of a lore master. I have not seen her in many years. We grew distant some time ago.
So,
You haven't seen her in many years. Wasn't she helping you research it?
No. We studied together, and many of the same texts, but my discovery of the slaying stone itself, it's this sixth stone, is something more recent. What worries me is that Dreas has the same books that I do, and maybe just as interested. We always could almost read each other's mind. I knew her intimately. Does that make it clear?
Of course.
No, it does not. Could you explain?
And she
They
just
knew
like
each other
scowls at you and like takes a drink of brandy.
It sounds like we have no time to waste. Let's
Yes.
be on with this errand.
I mean, one last question before we go.
Oh yes.
I mean, they've been overrun for quite some time, right? You've been waiting for somebody who can do the job, but why has she waited? I mean, I understand that there's a, get there before her, but I feel like you've been gone for years. Why is she only going now? Or why do you suspect that?
There is a link between us. It was forged in earlier times, and we can share some notion of each other's intentions. That is what concerns me. Perhaps she was turned on to the search for the Slaying Stone by my own research. Distance does not factor into it. We intended to stay together, you understand?
So, you feel like
Everyone
it's urgent.
knows.
We should go now.
I do. And then I think Curious Alkirk is just like, and like slumps against the side of the chair.
Well said.
You know what? I feel like I've been like slowly torn about trying to figure out how to fiddle my way into that box, but I've been so distracted by his like elderly distress that I've been sort of like sidelined, and I start like digging in my pouches, and while we've been talking, I've just been slowly sort of fidgeting and making something. And so finally, like I pull out, it's the equivalent of, you know, a corn husk doll, except it's made out of like weird crap a kobold would carry. So it's got, you know, little like scorpion parts, and you know, and I'm just like, oh, I hope you feel better. And I just kind of give him this little like super ugly, disturbing doll that I've sort of fashioned, and put it on his leg and sort of pat him.
Yeah,
And then kind of look at him, because, you know, kobolds don't get that old. It's weird.
Okay, so why don't you roll for this? What skill are you gonna use?
I kind of feel like it might be trap making, but
Yeah, like I could definitely see that. Go for
all
it.
right. Five.
All right, so you got a success. So he, yeah, you see Curious Alkirk, once lord of this city, just like take this weird cobalt doll construction and just like hold it to his chest and be like, ugh, like this is like his teddy bear now. And she gives you like a weird look, which is like partially thankful and partially like, what the fuck? She says, here.
I'd make them for my litter mates.
Yes, I suppose you have a sort of culture. She walks over to the back of the room where the hearth is, and like pulls out some like bowls and cups and stuff, and she like puts some soup into these bowls and cups and like hands them out to everybody. She's like, here, take these. You'll need your strength. The city is beset with dangers. So you all get to have a little bit of a rest before you head out into town. It's just like a weird like thin vegetable soup or something, you know, some kind of borscht or something.
Is this for bathing?
For drinking.
Yes.
And my tongue flickers out a couple of times to smell it.
Yeah, it smells okay. I mean, you know, it's like your average peasant food.
I drain the bowl, part of it spilling down my beard.
She's like, there, you've got it now.
And probably not quiet enough, but meant more as like a mental checklist for myself than for her. So get her culinary tomes as well.
She says, if you would like a few recipes as a reward, I'll be happy to oblige.
You said you can help us get to the next town. Can you help us get into this one?
I can tell you a few likely ways inside. The first way is the most obvious, through the gate. Of course, the goblins will be guarding it, but you look like you
Of course.
like he, she looks over to Gorstog and she says, "You look like you could make your way through a gate without too much difficulty." The second.
Normally, my enemies open the gates.
And she says,
Saves on gate repair fees.
in any case, the second route you may want to attempt is through the river, fording the river. Now, you will need to be a strong swimmer to get through. It's not terribly friendly or warm these days, but it's an option. And the third you might attempt is to travel through the forest and ford in a more discreet location than near the gate. Those are my suggestions.
Those are all pretty straightforward.
I kind of like Arjun's idea, honestly. If it's going from north to south, and we're coming from the south, we can beat feet around that, and from this map, it looks like a... What did you say? And I point to where the 8 was. This is hot springs or something? Are there baths?
Yeah.
Yes, actually. We used to pride ourselves on them.
Maybe
That's
we
the
can cross
closest
there.
point to the town.
Yeah, it looks like there's a road that'll take us to the temple and to the big castle thing. So, and maybe it'll be out of the way of the ruins, out of the goblins. Might be easier to sneak through all that farmland and what stuff.
Seems like a sound plan to me. So be on your way. She just grabs your bowls and cups and puts them on a tray and like sticks them in the corner. So I think we're gonna wrap up the session there. I think it's been
So
3 hours now. So just finally, do you have any thorns and roses for this game? If you have time, start with Arthur. Do you have a thorn for this for strike or for this session?
I think things did slow down in the beginning, trying out that tactical combat, and we were experimenting with it, which is totally cool. But it did unfortunately chew up about half the session. I think it might have been fun to do a little bit of character stuff first before we launched into that. But I think the setup certainly feels like there's going to be a lot of interesting adventure and a lot of twists and turns once we get into that town. So I'm certainly interested to see what comes next.
Yeah, and I think I might do some kind of like Bond-like thing at the start of the next session, just to like get some backstory for these characters. Yeah.
I think that'd be great. Yeah.
All right. JM?
Yeah, it's nothing on you. It's just the combat still seems long, which is one of the major sticking points of 4th edition, which, for even if there had been the 3 sessions, it makes me wonder how much we can actually get done in that time period. But that would be the only thing. I think it,
Yeah, I think
well, like I said, that's more the system than anything that you've done.
Yeah, I think it's a thing where it's like there's a learning curve, and I think once you learn the system, it's supposed to take about 30 minutes for a combat. So that I think sounds reasonable as long as you don't overdo it. And
Maybe.
I'll just kind of scale it back for the next session.
And when you're learning, it always does take a little bit longer too. So
yeah,
that probably contributed a good bit to it.
Yeah. All right. And Sid, do you have a thorn?
Nope. Not at the moment. I think other than the stuff that I've said, I will actually say that having dice only on one side but symmetrical is interesting and something I need to think about a bit more, because you know how PBTA doesn't have like attack and defense rolls sort of thing,
Mhm.
but it's all player side, so that's how it balances it.
Yeah.
But this does have, so attacking a blinded wolf is the same difficulty and has the same stakes as attacking a big dragon sort of thing. Like it's
In terms of the roll, right?
in terms of the roll.
It's the miss action that changes how threatening that is.
Yes, which
Yeah.
is something I'd have to look at the monster design for, but I haven't looked at for Strike. But I might talk to you about that offline at some point, interestingly. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, and Tejas, do you have a thorn for this session?
I think because of what they said about the length of the combat, that's already been sort of said. But I downloaded the free rules
Mhm.
a little while ago to kind of look through, and I never actually got to those combat rules because there was there's a lot of meat to this,
Yeah.
and I actually thought that the combat was all this team conflict stuff. So I was curious to have tried out
Yeah,
that
because
as
that's
a quicker resolution.
basically like a simplified version of Duel of Wits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of I know we'd have to shorten it to 2 sessions, but it would have been nice to have here's a little key, keystone to try out the tactical, and then a keystone to try out the team conflict, just so we can kind of compare the two.
Yeah.
And kind of the
Yeah.
merits and flaws of each one, and because I feel like that tactical combat is really gonna be for your set pieces.
Yes.
And what we did was to try it out, but it probably would have been, if this had been a longer game, something that wouldn't have been as much of a set piece. It would have been more, taken care of in other ways.
Yeah, and I think
I should say.
I've cut out most of the combat encounters in this module because I don't think you don't want to do this every battle. It's just too much. And I think it can kind of get around one of the issues with 4E where you kind of as a DM only had 2 or 3 different ways to design a module in terms of progression. It would be oh, is it going to be medium, hard, or is it going to be easy, medium, hard, or when do they get rests? You just kind of have this very limited palette to work with as a GM. And I think that just doing the tactical combat for the hard fights or ones that have a really interesting setup are is kind of nice because you can get rid of that build up that you might have to do. I just didn't want to throw you into a boss fight and be okay, you have no idea how to use this system. Now let's everybody just get TPK'd. That's not going to be fun either. So yeah. But yeah, no, that's cool suggestion about the team combat. Maybe we'll do one of those next session, depending on time. So, okay, so roses. Arthur, do you have a rose?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like the setup of the plot. I think there's plenty of possibilities there and how things could turn out. I could see my character sort of looking at this magic stone as being an opportunity to fulfill his goal of killing this hobgoblin gang. So that could be interesting. I can see some of the characters' personalities already coming out, which I think is a lot of fun. So yeah, I think there's plenty of meat on the bone, and I'm looking forward to having some travel conversations and all that with the players. So I think next session will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun deciding what to do with the stone.
Yeah,
you don't have to do what Triota says, right?
Yeah.
Okay, JM, do you have a rose for this session?
Yeah. First off, the pre-gens are all excellent.
Thank you.
Uh, just all the ones that like I skimmed over all of them and like read in depth on like three of them, and all of them were like, oh, this would be so much fun to play. So all of them are really well written. They had a strong sense of character to them,
Good.
and I think it's coming through in play too. So, I can definitely see where Tejas is going with the character. I see where Arthur's going with the character. I think everyone's doing a great job. So, yeah. I think that comes down to, how they were made as well as how everyone's playing it. So, roses for everybody.
Yeah, uh, yeah. Good
Right,
job,
I gotcha.
everybody. And I think for the next time I run this, I'll probably actually have like eight characters to choose from. So it'll be a nice selection. Okay, Sid, do you have a rose?
Oh boy, I had two and I've lost them in thinking it. Pre-gens, I think it's really obvious how much work you've put into this, Kyle. So I super support that and appreciate that. Um, and my rose for the system is I love the decoupling of class from role. The ability to be, you pick archer or ranger, and then being able to be a controller or a striker, or like being able to fill different battlefield roles. Kind of decoupling that aesthetic from functionality is really nice for me.
Yeah, and I think it would be interesting to play the game and have like the players make their own characters and kind of work through that. But like the reason why I did the pre-gens was because that is totally overwhelming to
Yes.
do a session, like just to do it on the Gauntlet Hangouts. Like that's just not
Yeah.
going to work. So
It's a little bit outside of scope, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But like, I'd love to see the wizard, duelist, and the that sort of stuff.
yeah, just these wacko combinations you could come up with would be really fun. Um, nice. Yeah, and Tejas, do you have a rose for this session or for Strike?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking, I like at first when I started the combat, I think I was still thinking sort of dungeon worldy in terms of like what can I do narratively,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was like pleasantly surprised when it turned out there's actual ability that basically does what I was trying to describe. I thought that was pretty surprising that mechanically it seemed to fit, and so the mechanisms were in place, but I only did that action because I thought it fit what the character was. So it seems like there's a lot of theme to the abilities you get.
Right.
um it might have just been like coincidence I happened to like strike upon one, but
No, I mean,
they
I
seem
kind of
well
tried to
put together.
put
Yeah.
together everything to sort of fit the character concept to the mechanics. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
And
good.
then I think in terms of the mechanics, we didn't get to play with it too much, but just from reading it, I really liked that whole sort of divide between like skilled has its own success chart versus unskilled, and
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea of like getting the bonus and all that kind of stuff. And I guess I wish like we had a little bit more chance to use some of the skills and that. And I think actually to kind of go back to that fictional positioning dungeon world sense, maybe like trying to utilize your skills more rather than the actions, or in addition to the actions,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
something that Strike's combat supports, whereas 4E doesn't really have that
Right.
in there.
Like
It's just a matter of remembering that, hey, think of a skill and what are you going to do with it. And now you're using that skill chart instead of the combat chart.
yeah, and I think like the more you get used to the system, like the more you can kind of understand how to work the skills into the combat. Like, oh, I do this thing, and then like, okay, what's the mechanical consequence going to be? Just like figure it out, improv it. I could see that being really, really cool. So yeah, I'd like to try to blend the things as much as possible. But yeah, well, yeah. So Thorn for me, I think was probably the Roll20 initiative roller. I think I don't quite understand that yet. And probably also just I just have to say about Strike that like I think this game really needs like a supplement for fantasy adventure, a supplement for sci-fi. I think that generic
Yes.
systems are just it like the amount of hacking that is required to get from the Strike text to where we are now was just tremendous. And I feel like the rules are totally there to support it, but like they're not giving you that bridge to what you want to do, and that was a major thorn for me in preparing this session. But
You know what?
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't-
Sid already said it, but like a definite rose that he already said. I mean, like the amount of work you put in just in the characters, and then I've never really used Roll20 with like that tactical map before, like doing all that kind of stuff because I know you have to set up all that junk, and I mean,
yeah,
like
it's
your amount of prep seemed crazy good. So yeah,
thank you.
that's definitely
Yeah, I definitely have to second that. That's
definitely
great.
rose.
From the pre-gens to getting Roll20 all set up, and all the work you put into the first session that didn't happen to, and getting us prepped for this one is really appreciated.
Thanks, and roses to everybody for like. I like that you, like. I think that obviously the gauntlet we don't do much in the way of tactical combat or like crunchy combat. Even if we're like, yeah, pretty much like there. I don't think we run like anything that has that much, except for maybe Lulz games. I guess that's probably the only example you could think of. But even then, I don't think you get too much into it. Um, so yeah, so just like roses for everybody for like giving it a shot and like trying to actually like work with the tactics of the map, because I think the fun thing about that is actually like thinking ahead and trying to position things and trying out your fun powers and all that kind of stuff. And I was glad to see that everybody kind of got shot at doing that, even if it was a little bit slow. So I thought it was fun to do the combat, and I was glad to see everybody could kind of get engaged with it. So for those of you who will be in the next session, I'll see you then, and maybe we'll have someone else join us, maybe not, but in either case, we'll make it work. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for the fun evening. That was great.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you, everyone.
thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you. See you next week. I'm definitely bummed that I'm going to be missing the next one.
No worries. I hope to catch you around another time, though, playing another thing.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was
Hey,
nice to see y'all.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'll see you for Shadowrun tomorrow, I guess, or not tomorrow,
Yeah.
on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Cool.
All
Bye,
right,
everyone.
man.
See ya.
Good night.